Now call the meeting of the Waco MPO Policy Board of November 18, 2021 to order at 2:00 p.m. Chelsea, has this meeting been posted?
Yes, sir, it has.
And are there councils that should be called into session? Doesn't look. Right, no? Okay. This is a public hearing. The public can speak on any discussion or action item on the agenda at this time. And we welcome any guests that are here today. We provide an opportunity for the public to address the MPO Policy Board on any agenda item. Please complete a speaker's registration card with MPO staff. Speakers will be allotted one presentation at the beginning of the agenda for each agenda item the speaker wishes to address. Please note each action item will have a separate public hearing later in the agenda. Speakers have the option of addressing the board at either time, but you'll only be allowed one opportunity to address the board per agenda item. And again, for items not on today's agenda, there's a separate hearing of the visitors at the end. So Chelsea, do we have any registered speakers?
No, sir, not today.
We do not.
Chairman, we have a quorum now, please.
Okay, do we need to call the,
So I'll call meeting of the Waco City Council
okay,
at 2:01 p.m.
got it for the record?
Mr. Chairman was told to be here to take a bullet for you in case that needs.
Maybe you'd be sitting closer to me.
A little too far away.
All right, since there are no registered speakers, so we'll move to the agenda item number 3. Consider approval of the minutes of September 16, 2021 MPO Policy Board meeting. A copy of the minutes was provided in your meeting packet. Are there any corrections to the minutes as submitted? None. The minutes are approved as presented. And there are 5 items on the agenda today. I'll just go over them right quick. First one is an update on the MPO director hiring process. We're going to have Jacob give us a few minutes on that. The second is a review discussion regarding Waco transit system fixed route alignment, realignment study. Staff will give us a presentation on that. Third is a presentation discussion regarding Texas Department of Transportation establishment travel surveys. TxDOT's going to help us with that one. The fourth item is a discussion and updates from the Texas Department of Transportation regarding significant highway construction within the Waco metropolitan area. That's always a good one. I love to hear that one on all the updates on everything that's going on locally. And then finally, a director's report. So we'll start with the update on the MPO director hiring process, and Jacob Bell, who's going to give us a report on that.
So thanks, Mr. Chairman. So as the outgoing chairman, I was involved with the hiring process. We've had a 2-round interview process with the candidate that ultimately accepted the offer. That occurred in September. The first round interview was with Clint Peters of Waco Planning and Chelsea MPO. Second round interview was with myself, Peter Emerson, and Paul Kane, assistant city managers at Waco, and it also included a driving tour of Waco. And the candidate who was ultimately extended the offer and accepted, his name is Mukesh Kumar, and he has some PhD initials after his name, which means he's quite educated. And that came across when we spoke with him. In fact, one of the things that impressed me the most as we interviewed him is that he had done his homework on Waco and Waco MPO, and he had several good comments and questions and knew quite a bit about us already. And so that was impressive. He's some other observations just to fill you in. He's very well spoken, but he's a very good communicator. He has a mixture of academic experience and practical experience. Most recently, he's coming from Jackson, Mississippi as the planning director for the city there. Jackson, at least population-wise, is comparable to Waco. And while he does have that academic experience we talked about in the practical, we thought we pressed real hard. I felt like he had a really good balance of both of those and not being overly leaning to one side or the other. And then finally, one of the things that we wanted to ask him and came through clear, he has some good experience working at the local level as well with the state partners there in Mississippi. So that's an important task in this role as MPO director. So Mukesh did accept the offer. His first day will be November 29th, is my understanding.
Yes,
so I think Chelsea is probably looking forward to that more than anybody else.
Very excited.
He should be with us in our next meeting. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Fantastic. I look forward to working with Dr. Kumar. Looks like he went through a robust process of getting here, and it's great that he's got some experience in the field too. So I'm looking forward to working with Dr. Kumar. Any questions to Jacob on that? Great. Next item is the review and discussion regarding Waco Transit System, Inc. fixed route realignment study, and Chelsea staff as a presentation for that.
Yes.
We got the little, can everybody see the screens here?
Great, thank you. So a quick background on the Waco Public Transit Fixed Route Realignment Study. We did the Rapid Transit Corridor Feasibility Study in fall 2018, and out of that came 2 recommendations. So the first recommendation was to establish the BRT or the bus rapid transit line along that locally preferred alternative corridor. So that's the US 84 and Franklin Avenue. And there's also a second recommendation, and that was to do a study about realigning the entire fixed route system. And in this case, the recommendation is specifically focused on loops around the BRT stops. As you might recall, earlier this year, the policy board voted to expand the scope of work for the realignment study to consider 3 separate scenarios, just so we have more options in how to better serve the Waco community with an efficient and effective transit system. So the 3 scenarios are: 1, bus rapid transit is in place and there is limited service along that locally preferred alternative alignment. The second scenario is we can consider that like a BRT light, that there's some sort of limited stop fixed route service. And scenario 3 is there's nothing like a BRT service in place, and instead we're looking at working with the existing system and doing complete realignment of our existing routes. So the 3 different scenarios to give the city and transit more options. So Alliance Transportation Group was selected as a project consultant this fall. As a reminder, the budget for this study is $300,000 with $112,500 coming from the Waco MPO's planning funds. The rest coming from Waco Transit Systems, FTA Section 5307 funds, and the local match. The project did kick off in September, and it's been branded as Reimagine Waco Transit, and you can start to see some of the branding here. I think it looks really great. So these are some consultant slides that I wanted to share with you all to give you a sense of what the logo is going to look like, so you can recognize it when the advertising is out in the community, and to understand some of the specific goals of this project. So regardless of the scenario, the 3 goals are to improve connectivity, minimize travel time, and provide freedom through transit. The approach is they're going to be looking at existing conditions. So the need for transit, travel patterns, key destinations. There's going to be a lot of public involvement throughout the process. There's going to be those scenario developments that we just talked about, those 3 scenarios, and also an implementation plan that's going to be based on the preferred alternative that comes out of the study. And the implementation plan will also include a detailed funding plan that considers the cost and benefit of the potential for electric vehicles. So this is the timeline for the project. The green bars on the top are the different ways that the community and the public can participate in the plan. And the blue bars and the parallel timeline is the technical analysis. And the star is where we are currently. So we're in the middle of a public survey and the existing condition analysis. The goal is to have the study completed in about summer of next year. And we anticipate that in early 2022, there will be a draft plan or some draft analysis. And then at that point, we can ask the consultant to come and give a presentation to you all on the status of the project and some of the findings that they've reached so far. So right now, there's still currently an opportunity for the public to provide feedback. This is a QR code and a link for the public survey. This will also be available on our website, so we encourage you to reach out to your constituents and let them know about this opportunity. So far, they've already collected 200 surveys, which is actually a fantastic response, but of course, more involvement is always better. And the survey, I think, is going to be up through the end of the year. So that's just a brief update on where we are with this project. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, there's also some flyers on the table outside if you want to pick some of that up on your way out.
For those cities who have, I mean, I know that this has been shared across the board for the city of Waco, but are there other alternative service groups and things that you're pushing this information through as well?
So from the MPO side, we did put this information out to our extensive email listserv, our stakeholder list. And I know some of our partners have then forwarded that information onto their groups. that's how we did it at the MPO. I'm not sure if Soon you want to elaborate.
The consultants also reached out to the stakeholders that we had during the ERC project. I was able to push that information out as well, but we have it on the City of Waco's website. And so we're really trying to make sure this is a community-driven initiative.
And there are some in-person events a couple of weeks ago, I believe.
Yes, we went out in the community, visited with some of the activities that were happening here in Waco. We're looking at visiting with the barbershops, we're looking at doing, just going out, finding the people, and then finding the best option for them to give us their feedback. Some people may not want to use cell phones and surveys, so we want to take the paper option out as well and just meet the need of the community.
Sure. And when does the survey close?
It'll close at the end of December, but then it will reopen up in January with some additional information that comes from the analysis.
So everybody's holiday events have an opportunity for there to be some information shared there as well, right? I mean, because I know all of our multiple communities will have something and do something over the course of the next few weeks that may or may not involve mass amounts of people. So safely. So yeah, that'll be great.
Were you all able to reach out to current Waco Transit consumers to get their input?
Yes, sir. We actually had a couple of events at our transfer plaza. We rolled the bus. We got feedback from the individuals that are using the service now. And so we have some posters up around the terminal, inside the vehicles. We also put it out on the buses that are servicing the football games because we just don't want the people that are using the bus to provide some feedback. If it goes through your neighborhood, we need to know your concerns so that you understand how this could impact. So we're really trying to find a wide variety of individuals to get the feedback from. So,
That was a big project and it affects all of McLean County and just the efficiency of moving people around. But what we have now really is kind of a dated looping system that where we just come downtown to get to where we want to go. And hopefully this system will be more efficient on 84 and Franklin. And it's expensive too. It's a big project that's going to cost a lot of money. So we will make sure we get it right, get all the feedback. And it's not going to happen overnight either. It's a several-year project. So everybody's, as we go, on the front end of this, we want to get as much information as possible. And as we go, good ideas are welcome. Anything else on that?
Not for me.
The next item is the presentation and discussion regarding Texas Department of Transportation Establishment Travel Surveys. And Chelsea, I'll let you introduce our speaker.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Let me just get this out of the way. Great. So TxDOT is continuing to conduct travel surveys in our Waco region. They started this effort with some pilot surveys in 2020. As a reminder, the purpose of these surveys is to understand the travel destinations and trip frequencies of regional businesses and households. This is something that TxDOT does about every 10 years. They're also simultaneously doing these surveys in the Clean Temple area as well. We use this information at the MPO to inform our travel demand model, which we then use as part of our long-range metropolitan transportation planning process that helps us prioritize those highway projects and our different strategies. So it's really important information for us to use at the staff level. 3 types of surveys: household, establishment, used to be called workplace, and commercial vehicle. So here's the schedule of the 3 different types of surveys. The pilots were in 2020 and 2021 in the summer, and they're in various stages of completion. So now I'm going to introduce Sonia Zielinski. She is with the TxDOT Transportation Planning and Programming Division, and she's the manager of the survey effort. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And Sonia, if you're ready to take this over. Can you hear us? Yep, I see it. Perfect. I see your PowerPoint.
Can you hear Sonia?
No, and Sonia, you're still on mute.
Oh, okay, sorry, I'm trying to unmute. I also wanted to share, so good afternoon. My name is Sonia Zielinski. I'm the program manager and for TxDOT at the Travel Survey Program, which is part of the Transportation Planning and Programming Division. So can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your PowerPoint.
Okay.
Now I see it in presentation mode, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So really quickly, we've changed our branding to a Texas Travel Survey Program. And one of the reasons we've done that is to give you an idea. This is all the locations that that we cover in Texas. And so we felt that we really want to represent Texas and the travel surveys that we do. And so what I'm going to do now is try to jump into our new landing page, which we here, hopefully you can see that. This is our new landing page, which we are using also for the public to start them out in getting to the surveys. So the first part is just a brief information about the surveys. And then this is the video. And I'd like to take just a minute of your time to show the video that we have is an informative video for people to learn about the survey. So I'm going to start the video. Hopefully you can hear it. And it should load. Maybe. It's always a problem with the video. And if it doesn't load, then I guess it's when I did it on without Zoom, it worked.
Yeah, it's taking up more bandwidth now.
Yeah, and it's probably because I'm coming in from a different place. So unfortunately, you can't see. I'm going to give it one more second here, but I don't think it's loading. So we'll just forget the video. But that is an informative video that we developed, and I'll bring you back to the page. And it gives, again, the public an opportunity to learn about why you would be taking the survey and how it would be helping the community. The important thing that we've also added is to find an active survey. People will be brought here through social media and they'll click their area and then they click on to Waco or wherever we're doing surveys. And then they're redirected to, and this is what happens for Waco respondents, and they come to the vendor's website. So then they can sign up directly from there to start their survey. And so you can see how, they would fill out the survey. So that's another component of the landing page that we have. And then the last is, that might be interesting for many of you, is we have all of our previous surveys. And in this case, we did Waco, the external and workplace, commercial, household in these various years. And you can access those PDF reports directly from our website. So that's another enhancement that we've put in, and it's more user-friendly. And then lastly, we've provided information. So I wanted to share with you just some briefly our landing page, and hopefully you'll go back and see the video. I apologize, I didn't come through. Then going back to this presentation, the most important part is obviously your area for Waco. This is the boundary, and we outlined the major arteries and roads that cover this area as possibly coming in to Waco, and this is used for our externals as well. So we calculate, and I'll talk about that later, for our external survey study and how we understand people going into the Waco and coming out or just driving straight through. As mentioned before, we have 3 survey types: household, done by households, residents in Waco; establishment, which originally was workplace and commercial, and now we've just put it under one name, an establishment; and then external study, which is using passive data. This is a change from before. We did external surveys on our own, and now we're just acquiring passive data to get that information. Let's dive into what a household survey is. Basically, they're randomly selected. They receive a mailed invitation postcard. And so residents will start to learn about the survey and then go on to the web and begin a recruitment survey to see if they qualify. Once they are selected, they will provide their travel for a 24-hour period on a weekday. And I apologize, I can't see everything on that. The travel data will be collected either by a mobile app, which we have an example they can download onto their phone, and this is how it looks. They will be told what to do, but the app does all the work for them, and it also captures all the trips. That is a big difference from the web travel log, which is something we're trying to move away from, but we still offer it, and that's where you calculate your travel and put it into the web yourself. So it's relying on the individual residents remembering what they did, the participants, and that's put into that location. The inputs we receive from this part of the survey for households are trip production rates, trip lengths, and the estimate of residents' travel. So that's very important for the model. We do establishment surveys, as mentioned before. Workplace component is going to focus on employment types. There are 4 different types: basic, retail, service, and education. We will be surveying over 300 workplace locations. And so here you have some examples of when they will be doing this survey. This is a person who uses a QR code, or we will actually have a person writing it down with down on paper. So they're getting the information from both visitors and employees to these workplace locations. In addition, we also will be doing 7 special set generators in Waco. And those are areas that we look at that probably generate more traffic. And so we kind of distinguish them from the standard businesses that may just have a normal traffic flow. Special generators will have large amount of traffic. So we make that distinction. The inputs are going to be for the model we get are the trip attraction rates, estimates of both non-resident travel and commercial travel. Moving on to the commercial vehicle component. This is an actual, they use an app. This is the one that they'll be using for the commercial vehicle component for the Waco and Keeling Temple area. Similar to the households, they will also be doing 1 day using the app, but if they don't have the app, they can again use the web. And this is what it does. It captures their travel in that 1 day. And we will be doing over 300 commercial vehicles and categorizing them as cargo, such as this picture below, or service, which is delivery service, or some sort of electrician service that people might have coming to their homes. The inputs are trip lengths, estimates of trips, cargo, transportation data. Here's the most important slide, so wake up. Sorry. Waco Travel Services surveys are being conducted by ETC Institute, and I show you the icon here, logo from their company, in case anyone is getting questions from ETC Institute, people mentioning them. That is the vendor that TxDOT has contracted to do the surveys, all of the different surveys, households and establishments. So please be aware of this name. More precisely, let's look at the status. As mentioned before, the pilot started in July for household and commercial 2020, and then stopped in August due to the COVID. We had to put it all on hold. We restarted in the spring of 2021, the main survey, and we're still continuing on into the spring of 2022. And the current completes between these two is about 50%. As a result, especially for our households, we've decided to move on with outreach, both through the vendor and TxDOT's district platforms. Those platforms mostly are Facebook and Twitter. And what this allows them to do through the districts is they will go onto our landing page and do what I showed you before, where they go in, they select their location, and then go directed to the ETC website and sign up. We have an upcoming outreach, which will be set out in the next month, and that's in Waco. Is a local TV station will KWTX will be broadcasting a commercial, again, as both awareness and recruitment. So we can bring these completes to 100%. That is our goal. Lastly, for the workplace surveys, current status is, again, this did not begin until after COVID. And so we started it in June of 2021, our pilot, and then the main surveys began in August and are going to continue through the end of December. The current completes are at 90%, and then the 7 special generators will be starting soon. The external study is already completed, and that's on our landing page. So you're more than welcome to look at the 2018 was when we completed that, and that was performed by our consultant, Texas Transportation Institute. Regarding what an external study is, briefly, we are acquiring passive data. And this is either going to be LBS data, location-based, or GPS data. And with that, we are able to understand if someone has gone through the Waco region, external to external, come in, which would be external to internal, or gone out, internal to external. So this is very important data, which again, you can see we use for the model and input into the model. So again, please go to our landing page and you can retrieve all that information. Once we've completed the establishment and household surveys, we will have summary reports done by TTI. And this is a previous one we have from the 2010. We will also have the deliverable of the technical memo to modelers. And of course, most importantly, we will have the survey data for the Waco model. And so lastly, thank you again. We are the Texas Travel Survey. Myself, Sonia Solinsky from Texas Department of Transportation, and also on the line is Ed Hard, who represents TTI, and we're here to answer any questions. Thank you again.
Thank you, Sonia.
Are there any questions of Ms. Solinsky on this? I think it was wise that we had to wait until COVID kind of, at least the worst of it passed. I hope it's a correct statement, I'd say, to do this survey, because I think we would have had kind of a inaccurate data had we started the process early. So I appreciate TxDOT kind of timing this thing out and gearing back in to get this going. So any other questions on that? The next item is what I always consider the frosting on the cake here, because this is the discussion and updates from Texas Department of Transportation regarding significant highway construction within McLennan County. This is the works in progress that we've been, the fruits of the labor that we talked about all these years. This is what's going on. I like it because of that, and I like it's usually the last item on the agenda too. So Clayton, go for it.
Hopefully I can live to the hype today. Go on to the next slide. I will start with our Waco Drive ADA signal upgrade project. And that's around a $10 million project from Center Point Drive around the Home Depot up to FM 933 on the north end of Waco Drive. We started work a couple months back. We're looking at the end of next year to complete this project. Cross Plus is the contractor. They've been working on primarily the north end of the job, north of the Brazos River. Currently installing signal foundations and conduit, starting a little bit of the sidewalk and curb ramp work there. And again, that work will progress to the south end of the project. Our FM 185 rehab and widening out towards Crawford. We started up work in October. We look to wrap up next summer. Contractors installing new drainage structures across that roadway, and we look to start paving operations within the next couple of weeks, and that will continue on to the rest of this year and into next. State Highway 31, this is a project that's actually being managed out of our Hillsborough office, but constructing a new overpass at FM 939. Work started there in October as well. Contractors primarily been working on bringing in embankment, actually off the interstate job, but to start building a new bridge header for that project. Currently, completion is anticipated for summer of 23 right now. State Highway 6 Mall to Mall. I'm sure you've seen a little action there this week. We actually brought in a drill rig this morning to start drilling the foundations for the new U-turn structure at Bagby. That will be the only work you see ongoing this calendar year. January 27th is the official start date, so to speak, for that project. And we'll kick off at what I'm gonna call the Beverly Crossing, that railroad crossing closest to Beverly Drive. We'll start constructing both new frontage road overpasses at that railroad crossing. The impacts you'll see right off the bat are actually going to be the closure of both U-turns. There will be a short closure of Exchange Parkway, and we'll be closing Industrial Drive for a period of time there as well. Got some ongoing discussions with Weber right now, finalizing their traffic control plan. I hope by the December meeting to have that traffic control plan finalized, and I'll be happy to present it here so everybody knows what's going on with that project. Again, we're estimating right at a 2-year time frame for that job. Then I-35 through October, we're at almost $310 million spent out on that job. Currently tracking towards a substantial completion date of end of next calendar year. Pictures, substantial. Late 22. All right, so this is at the south end of the project. These pictures were taken in early October. Since this was taken, we've actually opened up a new entrance ramp just north of this location. And what that allows Weber to do is go ahead and tie in the permanent pavement to the existing infrastructure there at the south end of the project. This is at the 11th 12th Street overpass. We've completed the bridge deck here. You can see a lot of the concrete pavement has been placed. We're currently installing drainage structures on both the east and west side of the interstate. And as that wraps up, we'll start working on the new intersection there as well. 4th and 5th Street, since this has been taken, we've completed a lot of the retaining wall work, actually placed this bridge deck. There's a lot of work going on currently on the east side of the interstate, Mr. Baylor, on Dutton. We actually anticipate to open the north to south U-turn at this intersection right after Thanksgiving. It's formed up and should be before Thanksgiving. Once that happens, you'll see a closure of 4th Street directly under the interstate for a period of time. After that U-turn opens, and then by early next year, you should have both 4th, 5th, and the U-turns in their final locations. We will not be complete with the intersection, but we should be running on permanent pavement final configuration. One thing to note is you can actually see, if you drive there now, we've started some of the grading work for 5th Street, where it's going to be realigned there with 5th Street at the Exxon station, so that's really starting to take shape there.
Do you have a sense of on 4th, 5th, like when there will be kind of multiple lanes of cars coming each way? Like when that will be kind of, when do you expect that?
Early part of next year when we open it up, I anticipate 1 lane probably for 4th and 5th. So you're talking probably March timeframe. We should have multiple lanes through there. Okay. That's the hope.
And I don't want to get ahead of your presentation, but do you have a sense of that on new parks as well?
It's going to be roughly the same time frame. There's a little bit less work at U Parks right now since we have the south half constructed, but that north half should come together in the spring time frame as well.
Okay, thank you.
This is University Parks. We've placed beams, panels, and we actually anticipate pouring this bridge deck next week prior to Thanksgiving. Here's an overhead shot of the Brazos River. Again, since this was taken in October, we've completed the columns and caps, started setting beams at either end of the structure, and then we will start setting the 3 middle spans of those steel beams over the next few weeks. So that'll start before Thanksgiving and then continue after the Thanksgiving holiday. Directly overhead at MOK, again, since this was taken, we've set all beams, working on concrete panels, and this is a bridge that will probably be poured sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
One last thing on that pedestrian underneath the interstate bridge as it crosses the Brazos on both sides, when do you anticipate that kind of to be open?
So once we get the bridge deck placed, and that one's probably going to be the first part of next year, as we complete rail work and some of the overhead work and get overhang brackets off, we can start looking at restoring some of that access. So again, I really think that spring time is when you're going to see a lot of that local access really start to clean up.
Thank you.
This is at our railroad crossing. We've completed substructure here. Beams will be set in the next couple of weeks. And if this bridge deck is not placed by the end of the calendar year, it will be the first part of 22. Business 77, we have completed most of the substructure here. This bridge will actually lag a little bit behind the others. We'll have beams set late this year, and it's another one that will probably run into the early part of 2022. One thing to note is we will be starting to install drainage on the west side of the interstate in the next few weeks. So you'll start to see some of that west side of the intersection come together. 84, another one where bridge beams are set. We should have concrete placed on the deck by the end of the calendar year. And then sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas, plan to have paving crews in to pave the new westbound lanes of 84 underneath the bridge. Directly overhead at Barron Circle, bridge has been completed, concrete pavement has actually been placed on either side of the structure. We're looking at some options to potentially get some of this concrete open, so that may be something we share in the future. And again, at the north end, you can see where bond breaker's been placed, and the majority of this has actually been covered up with concrete today. So that's it. Any questions on any of the projects?
Clayton and Stan, can you remind our group of what the original target date to complete the I-35 project, I think was May of 2023, right?
That's our contractual end date.
2020, yeah.
Our contractual end date is in spring 23.
Substantial completion is traffic in its final configuration. There's the ancillary work. The substantial completion will be sooner than that.
Yeah. I was thinking, I want to say we're like a year ahead of schedule, or maybe more than that, 14 months. Of the original schedule.
Like 6 months longer.
I'm sorry.
It seemed like we were like a year ahead of schedule.
So, no, wait a minute. I wish we were there.
Yeah, it's not.
I think you may be thinking about what TechStop, we set the original contract time, but then when we bid a time.
Right.
And Weber shortened it up.
Right.
Yeah, so, and then we actually did a contract change after they were under contract to shorten it even more.
Exactly.
So
I just think the timeline for all this is.
the timeline had definitely progressed. We could probably work something up to show
Nice.
those.
That would actually be useful because we do get that question a lot and I have trouble remembering where we started.
I'll add that to December.
The finish line is moving, but in this case, it's moving to the good.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So, because I think everybody remembers, everybody thought this was going to be the horrible thing that happened in downtown Waco. And then COVID came along and took a backseat to that. But, so I've always liked this report. There's so many good things going on. We're seeing the completion. So I love the fruits of the planning and labor. Any other questions?
Stan and Clayton, the TechStop team too, because we know other communities that did not experience I-35 moving ahead of schedule, and this is significantly ahead of schedule. And that is beneficial to our economy and for the quality of life of our citizens. So thank you for your strategic efforts to ensure that our story is a positive one. This is infrastructure we need. But it is painful to go through this process, and I believe that your efforts have made it a best case scenario. So thank you.
Any other comments? Great. We'll go to item number 8. The director's report is Dr. Kumar's not here yet. So
No, you still have me for now.
All right. So Chelsea, you got the director's.
I don't have as many letters after my name. So our next scheduled meeting is December 16th. I'll work with Chairman Holmes to make a decision about whether or not we want to push some of the discussion items to January, because we don't have any action items as of today. And I know we like to have action items to have a meeting. So we'll make a decision and we'll get back to you all on that. That's all I have for today. So next.
So right now, we'll say it's going to be December 16th, but we'll get back with everybody on that. Okay. The item number 9 is the hearing of visitors. At this time, we provide an opportunity for the public to address the MPO policy board on any item or business that's not identified in this agenda. So we have an open area of visitors at 2:39. Chelsea, do we receive any registration cards?
Nope. None.
With that, we'll close the area of visitors at 2:39. And there being item number 10, adjournment. Being open to business, we will adjourn the meeting at 2:39.
Thank you, everybody.
City Council at 10:39.